Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fensky. It was a heavy weekend for many St. Louis residents. On Saturday evening, a nearly 4-year member of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department was shot in the head while on duty. Officer Tamaris Bohannon has died from his injuries. The 29-year-old officer had a wife and 3 young children. The suspect in Bohannon's shooting had barricaded himself in a home in the Tower Grove South neighborhood in South St. Louis. He also shot a second officer. That officer was shot in the leg, and he has been released from the hospital. The suspect surrendered to police after a standoff that lasted until the early hours on Sunday. In a statement, Mayor Lyda Krewson called Bohannon's death, quote, a terrible, senseless tragedy, and our thoughts are with his family. And so, yes, we do feel some heaviness today here at St. Louis on the Air. In just a bit, we're going to learn about a new initiative that's aimed at medical professionals and other frontline workers during this pandemic. First, though, we've got some breaking news. Lumiere Place closed last spring due to the coronavirus pandemic. At that point, hundreds of workers at the downtown casino and hotel were furloughed. And when it reopened on June 1st, only about one-half of its unionized workforce were called back. Earlier this month, the others got some bad news. Lumiere Place was planning to lay off 97 of them. But that is not the end of the story. And joining me today with the latest is Kim Bartholomew. She is the secretary and treasurer of Unite Here Local 74, which represents the hospitality workers at Lumiere Place. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
So take us back to June 1st. About half of Lumiere Place's union hospitality workforce got called back then. How did they feel about going back to work?
They were happy to return, but a little nervous because of COVID-19 still running pretty rampant in the city. So we did a lot of work with our health committee at the casino to ensure people felt safe to return.
And was the casino a pretty good partner in that? You were able to get some of the things the workers were hoping for? Yes,
because I think everybody had the same thing in mind, right, to try to protect the workers as much as possible.
And how have those workers been doing? They've now been open there for a few months. Is everybody doing okay?
They've been open, it ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes they're busy, sometimes they're not. And then the other county casinos opened up mid-June. So there for a couple of weeks, they had all the gambling happening there at the casino.
So that was good for business, even if maybe not so good for distancing. Now they have maybe a little more room for distancing?
Yes.
So that's good to know that, those workers are back, but that's about half of your workforce. The other half, this is 97 of your workers, they were not called back. Who ended up not getting the call to come back on June 1st?
So there's some areas in the casino that they just have not opened yet. So majority of these workers worked in a restaurant called The Wok. They worked in the buffet, VIP room, and valet departments.
Okay, so they had these weren't people who weren't being called back for performance issues or anything like that. This is just they worked in a part of the casino where it was not yet reopened.
Correct.
And it is still not yet reopened.
Correct.
So 5 months is a long time to be unemployed. Have most of these workers been able to land other jobs during this point?
No. I don't. I'm sure people are familiar with the hospitality industry in the city of St. Louis right now.
Mm-hmm.
There are thousands and thousands of hospitality workers laid off. So these workers to just go find another job just like that, the pickings are pretty slim right now.
So these workers were all on furlough, but you got some news about them earlier this month. Now, I understand at that point you had been working to extend the recall list for another 6 months. This would take them into April. What would that mean if the company extended the recall list?
So whenever you're taking somebody off a furlough to a permanent layoff means that they report that to unemployment, and then they came off from furlough for anybody that had the company's health insurance. They would no longer be on the company's health insurance. And then if we didn't get recall rates extended, it means that they more than likely would not be called back to work.
Okay. So people want to stay on that list. This is a way to basically retain your job if these other areas ever reopened.
Correct.
And with that, it's not just getting the right to come back to work. You also retain your seniority.
Seniority and pay rate.
And so what would this mean for some of the workers within your membership? I assume some of them have been there for quite some time.
Yeah, since these areas have been completely closed, you have in most of these areas day one workers that they're the ones that opened that casino 13 years ago. So you're talking about folks that have been there for 13 years. All of a sudden, a pandemic hits and lose your job.
So I know you initially thought things looked pretty good, that the company would be willing to extend this another 6 months. Again, these are workers who'd been good workers. They'd been there from day one. Then some things happened in the last couple weeks. Take us up to say last Friday. What was happening there behind the scenes as you tried to talk to the owners of the casino?
So we had asked for extended seniority rights, and talks kind of broke down. And then out of the blue this past Monday, not today, but last Monday, we just got a call saying, hey, these people are being permanently laid off. So we thought we had agreement, and then it was kind of a scramble at the end. But I actually have good news to report that today we have signed an agreement with Lumiere that it's fair to all those involved.
When you say it's fair to all those involved, does that mean that these workers are going to get to keep their recall rights?
Yes.
That's great. So people who have seniority, they'll be able to keep seniority. If the VIP room reopens, they get to go back and work in the VIP room.
Correct.
Now, when we talked last Friday, you were pretty pessimistic about this. As you said, it was about a week ago. As of today, things had really broken down. They didn't want to sign off on this. You told me this on Friday. You said, what I don't understand is you're not spending any more money to keep people on the recall list. The only thing I can deduce is that you don't want these people there for some reason. You said maybe they want to replace experienced employees with cheaper ones. Do you have any sense of what took you guys to the brink where they did not want to extend this recall list and this was important to you guys to fight for this?
I still to this day don't understand. Corporations are corporations, and mainly, they operate off of the bottom line. We don't operate off the bottom line. We operate that people are human beings and that everybody has these rights. And so I can't pretend to be in their head, but I'm very happy with where we ended up. Very happy with where we ended up.
And this is all signed as of this morning. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, I just signed it and sent it off earlier, about 2 hours ago.
Now, we do want to note, we also reached out Friday to Caesars Entertainment. That is the newish owner of Lumiere Place here in St. Louis. They never did get back to us, and we were interested in hearing their perspective. Unfortunately, because we haven't heard back, we aren't able to share that. But having a signed thing in hand, obviously good news. Kim, something else I wanted to mention. I know some regulars were so deeply upset about these longtime workers facing layoffs. Some of them even signed a petition. Do you think that ended up making a difference?
I think so, because it was a public petition. It was done on a website online, and to where you could just send it to people and click the link. So I think a lot of the things that we did to make this a little bit more public, for them to understand that it's just not just the workers there, that it's the community as a whole and St. Louis as a whole, that we have to start looking out for each other here. And there's thousands of our members laid off in the St. Louis hospitality industry. There's even thousands more that are not our members that are affected by this as well.
Mm-hmm. And bigger picture, these workers get to retain their recall rights. They get to save their seniority, but they're still not yet getting to go back to work, which is, I know, what a bunch of them want to do. Right. Do you have any sense of when the casino plans to be back up to full employment, have all of these areas open again?
I do not. I think everybody's hope is that we get a vaccine, right, towards the end of the year, beginning of next year. So far they haven't shared with me their plans for these 4 areas. And
overall, the workers that you deal with, how are they doing?
Better now. Those folks that are laid off, they feel a lot better about things. The workers on the inside are happy, because some of these folks that work in the other areas have known the other workers that are being laid off for years and years and years, and it's these workers are like a family. It truly is.
So this feels like a victory to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Bigger picture, though, Unite here, Local 74, you guys represent a lot of people throughout this area. What percentage of your members would you estimate are currently not able to work?
Probably about 70%, Sarah.
Wow.
It's hit the hospitality industry and anybody that represents people in the hospitality industry hard, pretty hard.
So this is affecting your membership, and it's also affecting your union.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Kim Bartholomew, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. This is just one little sliver of good news in what otherwise feels like kind of a bleak situation, but I guess we got to take the victories where we can get them.
Absolutely, Sarah.
Well, Kim, again, is the Secretary-Treasurer of Unite Here Local 74, giving us an update on the situation at Lumiere Place. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.